Formal, and please ask his. Okay.
ane tanga so kasun zenra sote ngamala ane tanga so nyomo ki senye da ane nyomo kande yorezene tindikon docha controller so nyomo mombo shegeres.
So in the last class and our last session, we talked a lot about the afflictions, sort of what are the afflictions, what are the definitions of the different afflictions, such as like desire, anger, jealousy, ignorance, and so forth.
ane tanga so jizem milari ba ka sonchi yore ane ze thonga changi machoba ze za gores pena karala ngaso khalat so pamikin thonga cha cha ken rig mares khalat zana jeni toko ja to ne chua nyogres tinoje ne chute nyemba cha ge pheng mare chute gom ane saulu tong ne tindijena ne jeni chik chua ti nyora ma to chu goa cha to nya cha ge ne chute ge chua ti nyotu mares chuti country yemeda haku mares
to flavor. So there's a saying by Jetsun Milarepa. Milarepa is one of these great practitioners from Tibet, and he says that it just looking at the sort of the substance or the food, right, doesn't do you any good. You have to actually eat the food to get the benefit from it. So in that same way, right, just reading the Dharma, reading Buddhism, reading these practices, or hearing them isn't going to do you that much good. You have to actually sort of think about them, contemplate them, and meditate on them to really get a flavor for it, a sense for it to really affect your mind.
ane tanga ti kon control za yo mares ane control ko mombo sheres ne control za ti ne zoba gogore za ti mombo she yores ina tanga so chota ji salo tona 수중문에 살로도나 컨트롤 간디 작은도 전에네 티 아주 살로 동아예스 페나 띵나는 아주 컨트롤 자요 말에 컨트롤 님부 첨부 아니 컨트롤 님부 조바 고고래잖아 아주 몸부시에요래서 이나 다 다른 아주 가래잖아 수수치 츠바자사가 메지도 치마가사 메질라 잘라이나다 가리나 티솔 살로 동 까마칠 아주 컨트롤 간디 작은도 su tsupa zasha country legendu tikolani kamachi salu to yes
dinga to dikomge
kamachi control zasa to me magasa chil salu to yes nanjiyo to ga jazate tha ga yapu chomba tisha taranga su tili dosho control zasa ga meji to ne susu control zato country dos tikol kamachi salu to yes.
So in the past we've talked a lot about anger or hate and saying, oh, well, that the antidote to anger is patience, right? So the antidote to hatred is practicing patience. And so we've talked a lot about the relationship, and we've talked a lot about practicing patience. But today what I'd like to do is for us to just spend a minute doing what we would call analytical meditation, where we really think about someone or something, whatever it is that makes us angry or annoyed or frustrated, and really just sort of think about, rather than thinking about the antidote to that, just really sort of meditate on what is that experience like, what is that object of our anger like, really sort of try to observe that mind that's thinking of the thing that we don't like or that makes us angry.
Susu control zasena da chimagasa chala karena susu salu kanga tese kare til salu tone kamachide ngo country do susu control zana country zagdo no country chegndo tikola kamachi salu.
So thinking about the thing that makes us angry or that we don't like, right? I mean, hatred and anger is a strong word, even just annoyed or that we don't like, right? Thinking about how that thing, what is that thing? What is the nature of that thing? And what is it about that thing like that makes us angry or makes us annoyed or that we don't like, right? Trying to just study that relationship for a minute.
Tatandanga so tendi control za sayana suzu magasa chala karan tel salu tois. Ane kyonde pasho paropolondo to suzolo do ane tisalu ton kechimboras.
So when we think about these things that annoy us or that we don't like or that make us angry or hate, right? It's important to think about where is the fault. Do we think the fault exists on the side of that object, or does the fault exist in us?
Ne kasi kyonde su control za to soma gechente suzolo yona ne suzu tisalu to ne jawa ton ares. Suzu gelo suzu ngone salu.
Ngatola yena.
Kyonde pashondo to sashondo suzu salu ton. Kasi kyonde suzolondo sambe salu chona ne suzulu ti kyonde kandi chene chondo. Ti meba zu tundo to zu tugumodo. Ti kola salu ton ares. Ne kyonde kasi paropolo yona ane 당아서 바로 분자 동거는 동투 말해서 디차라 네 수준 자와 동거래서 네 디차라 수준 연자와 간지 동거도 어디까지 살로 동아래서.
It's also very good to think about, right, in these we have two possibilities. The fault lies on the side of the person or the object or whatever, the thing that we don't like on ourselves, right? And if we think about the fault being from our own side, then we can really examine, well, how is this problem arising, and we have a chance to actually change it, to do something about it, right? If we think the fault exists on the side of that object, or the person, or whatever it is, there's really nothing we can do about it, right? So if we really see it as something within ourselves, then we have this possibility to work with it.
네 pena 수순라우치 니마 타바 컨트롤 자텐디 자댕케체나 아니 다 수수 컨트롤 티 자사키 동부 가르 control yorti kandindo tel salupa ngebot chacheton ane ti control yorti saluton sane nga garjane kol control zaga yoresen tel salujiton ane jonse mombo saluton ane ta control ti kras mentone zana suzul kependo domundo jondo kindo o ti kol saluton mombo tona ane control donle chala. So
if you pay attention, like, or if you're someone who habitually is getting angry or frustrated, or if you just pay attention when you're getting angry or frustrated, and you look at, why am I getting angry and frustrated? Am I blaming that object, that thing, right? What is the cause of my getting angry or frustrated? And what can I do about it, right? If you're able to sort of make this analysis and also think about, like, what is the benefit of getting angry, right? Or what is the harm of getting angry? Like, really looking at what's actually coming from this anger versus benefit or harm, right? If you can examine these emotions, this anger as it arises, you can then sort of slowly, your mind, your anger will arise less frequency or less strongly.
Nima taba control za to matia choate karazana control de kandi zagando ne control za na penton do to mundo ne control de meba zu to mundo article saluton anyon tabi kyonji ne control de yone yon za te yoras control de yone yonjoza control mombo za jora te control ko la salu mombo maton ne control ke nyemo kyonde kandi cheche maton. So if we do this every day, if we're getting angry or something every day, or if we examine when we get frustrated or angry, it doesn't have to be like super strong, just any kind of frustration or anger, and we really think about where this fault lies. If we really examine what is the cause of the anger, if we really examine, right, is there benefit or harm for us getting angry? If we're able to do this analysis over and over, then we will sort of improve this anger will decrease. Ne pena kersanga sum mechi control zasachi tabarin ton dena ani tatela me taushikara zana me telo jontare zendroa. Because me the chayon shona nga phan ko thusona control za ma chayona tombo thal me to tharembo to ko ma thaya che ani sauluton na kar chen control za koras otindi jontar ton ane jima me tin thon de parishi control ma za to ne pasa kesha shendo yo tindig chawachi legres.
So for example, say there's like a person, just as an example, that makes you angry or that you really don't like. Hey Jennifer, welcome back. And somebody you say you see every day, right? So you're walking and you're going to see them, right? Well, when you see them and you know you're going to get angry, like one method you can use in the beginning stages is just to avoid them. But when you avoid them, you should really examine your mind. Oh, this anger arose. Why is this anger arising? What is the benefit of this anger, right? You should really do it mindfully, be aware of what's happening. And so you can, in the beginning, you can avoid them while being aware of this process, right? And if you are aware of sort of the benefits or really the harm of this emotion, then slowly your anger will decrease. And the next time you see them, later, then you don't have to avoid them. Then you can try to sort of actually say hi to them or something, right? So it's this process of slowly changing your mind.
Ne tanda tipari tanda nga su control country ye gong yoga yore tisum tipari su tiwa US.
Do you have any questions so far about like the meditation or what we're talking about? Sure, yeah, please.
So he speaks about anger, but the other affliction, like this is specific to me.
Okay.
I feel intense attachment, and I felt it. I mean, across decades, I felt it for different objects, different people. So when I do feel, I mean, the little that I've been exposed to Buddhism now, the last couple of days, I'm aware of this happening.
Sure.
But because it's so deeply entrenched,
yeah.
What do I do in the moment when there's a
okay.
wave of attachment that?
Yeah, like craving or attachment or something,
Yeah,
desire, yeah. Yeah, people usually have one or the other. It's stronger, yeah. Kongi sungba karesena di nguni cheni kongla di gyun tso di du chak di sepa yore. Yang na di kongi di sungba di chiwa karesena di kongi neka di du chak shukchimpo langna di bang karriere di nimbo karriere di nekap di nga ong di du chak be shukchimpo di langna di karichegin di nimbo karriere nekap de la di
reta nekap khatu dosa jaza tinga tata sheshima so ga ina chiton dosa ke nimbote maso medipa ga tisol chiton ke dosa ke nimbote di saluton ares ina khatu dosa shishimbo patendi chena ani kan jondayo sa nyanyo sa chena sang saluton ne time bazu tu ares jon pena
jondar kare
dosa che khondro che gesane jondar ganja yoyo salumo boton yon khajena ani sang salu shishimbo tonne ani ja tontu ares te chiton dosa ke nimbote medipa gan tendi sheyores ina khati tendi dosa shichimo tendi pati ne khatu nimbo kandi chagores na tata sha khatu tendi ji
ni di kaptuk di negap kaptuk la di nimbo jikchena mare di tap kariyore di tuchaki di
me bazwa
di simyeng rabo di kare di tap shamba kariyore
yes tati khatu len tata chi theyo ha kumasora ina pena ngandabaji 칼란드 잔도 시치모 칸돌 세바 시치모 제나 아니 티 칼랄 카투 준 따자나 가서 준따 카투 준따 두 마라간르지 아니 티 루카잖아 예네 칼라마임 젬바첼라 살루톤 네 칼라테도 카트네 존타레 로아타시 타 텐디 제나 펜토요나마도 카투 텔라 하쿠마스 제톤 도차라 메드바가 예름부 간텐디 제나 준 tatu gore tena khatu chi kana khala zando shichimbo chi khala trimatun thonti ti zandon ra pitin je chena tatil khatu salu tone nyembo te ta kana khapun ti to jon thare khatra o tili chene thashi to yona ma tata chi le ja ko
so generally speaking, when we talk about attachment, the antidote to attachment is, we say, was mitukpa. It's like meditating on the unpleasantness of whatever it is, right? So like you can imagine whatever you're attached to not being so attractive, right? There's this meditation on attraction. Like, so I'm going to add this, but just as an example, for like if it's an attraction to a person, you imagine them as a skeleton or something, or their body rotting, right? It's just a mind trick to get rid of the attachment. But really, this is something that you do not when the thing necessarily is arising in that moment, right? This is like meditating on patience. You're doing this normally, and that attachment will sort of decrease. When that strong attachment arises in that moment, it's quite difficult, right? It's very difficult if you, like, for example, you use some kind of food or a really nice meal you want, right? It's quite hard to meditate on the unattractiveness of the meal when that attachment is there. I'm the same way. I'm much more attachment-oriented than anger, personally. I'm saying that's not Geshe, right? And so it's quite hard. When that arises, it's very difficult. You just sort of have to try to distract yourself or something. But if you can train your mind slowly, right, by meditating on, you say unattractiveness, it can also be like meditating on the faults of this attachment or the faults of giving into that attachment. Then slowly over time, that strength of that attachment will decrease, and you'll be better able to not, be so overpowered by it at the moment. Is that helpful?
So if it's a person and not an object, can you possibly meditate, like, can you think of their shortcomings or their, I don't know, I mean, I don't want to blame them or point a finger at them, but what, like you mentioned that meditate on the unpleasant things. So can you sort of objectively look at that person and then think about them?
The
Because
faults.
you put them on a pedestal, right? When you have that
Yeah, exactly. I'll ask Geshe, but yeah, exactly. You're exaggerating their good qualities, so you have to fix that.
So can you do
공기 뒤치와카리사나 디 직시나 디 강작 라디 둑작 미 둑작 축침포 유나 nganso di ni metela di trotok chukchimpo yore ati nganso di simginanga di pe yabo pe ningjebo pe zepo trabo thongi yore so di nyimbo che gi che du di kangzak di mete gi gyun mangbo samla thangna di digireve
ndir pena kyun mombo salu tang pena mijela ga ni shichimbo ga sate metela yote chamato kyun thog mare 교마도 요된 도고 말에 딘데 있어서 아니 엄마라 요된 마도 좀 도고 말아 아 딘데데 아니 미들라 요대 딘링아 시침보 가더니 고아 가렌도스 오늘 미소마치 바레스 때문에 바기 미코르 영웅은 하춘 집아 딘디지요나 미소마게네 콜가메 소카자가지요레 딘 민도스 나롱고네 당하롱고네 바 참에이직 참에이제 르탄네 민들레 경기 전에 있다네 다 대자부터나 디 차레 샤레나 리파 콘텐츠전 솔루톤 도나다 야시신 마드나 민들레 경기인데 민들레 제마카긴도스 민들 교바 야보 민도스 다우테네 자티서 야보 미티서 쇼건다 경바잖아 버리시 민들레 차지 본도 이나 차지 본요 대자부 살루테나 민데네 샤 리파 차나 어다 디소 경바가는 될 차지제고 가린도즈니 다티 센톰보케자 센톰보면은 미디 제마 셰자렌 디 교바야 보면도 직딘디 몸보 살루토나 요 차지 차나 펜도요레스
Yeah, so that is exactly basically what you do, in the sense that, right, if you have this sort of fixation on a person, right? So you really, all you see are their good qualities, these exaggerated, really good qualities, right? And so you can think, for example, that if those good qualities really existed the way that you're seeing them on the side of the person, then everyone would be sort of infatuated with this person, right? So that's one way to think about it. You can also really focus on their negative, like you could really think, oh, they smell bad, or they have bad teeth or hair, whatever faults you can pick out and think about. And it's not about blaming that person. It's about getting rid of this exaggeration for your mind. So you can really focus on these whatever faults you find in the person to balance this out. And then, like I mentioned just a second ago, there's also these basic meditations you can do really with the human body or with the person, right, where you imagine them sort of rotting. You literally like their flesh is like a rotting, like they're a corpse. You can imagine them just being like a skeleton. And these are just ways to train your brain, right? You're not trying to harm the person. It's just trying to get your brain out of this exaggerated sort of state. There's a term called namdok. And so what it is this these exaggerated afflictive thoughts, right? When you get focused on something, you just, your brain conceptually just starts to, you think it's really great or it's really bad, right? And so you have to counteract that.
Pena ngaro rachen ngema lutamombu ngaro re doje dendro wa ye doje dendro ne chomba chi tema ya bu ji chando tema tela komu kasena komu ngaja tuja ta konse tata ji tema tela
tema
tema komu ngaja ina tuja ta kon chimbo da jela tenga nyondo shebondo tema tela sheba chaba ji ne tanga nyona como ngaja tuja singdo yana ti soma nyuna nga jima nga rupe choto ake nyondo tene tane de tematel tematel chaje tete nga nyua rana sa tene nyondo shiche poche ta pesha ganan do mundo ane sayonto chaje yo ta como ti nyogo to mogo temate to katani sa tezi yora yon saleje to ta pesha ti Chemato nyo goto mogo yo saulo mombo tong ane parishi saulo chigani ya tanda pa dengal tin chemato meni nga risos ni krasi tanga tin chemato nyo na ngal muisika pento akari yo res tin chemato yo nga khati chi sangji kompo tanga chi chebu cha pita chayo na nga tila manyo thamen ra chi tiri ina tindi na shirayo samare tanga karrezen utu peshak nyo mando kanga tenen Saule tinrich kani saule chematel charging meba cha otini cha tanda tinga nyale chene mare utuni ta pesha ka kang mando tinrich chene utuni saule rich ka tatin chemati tanda pangal mere ne kasi yona karche ngati yona theba karche ayos saule tinrich kani ne chematel nyundo meba charging saule kang rich meba chasos tindi jeto saule cheban dos.
So I, for example, when I would go to Bodhgaya a lot, Doje Din, and I'd go to Bodhgaya a lot, and I'd walk around in the markets, and I would see these really beautiful malas, right? These malas would cost 500 or 600 rupees, and I really, I don't have that much money, and so I would get really fixated on how beautiful this mala is, and I would sit there and look at it and admire it and think about how wonderful it is and how much I wanted it. And I would become, very attached, right? There's this then the word in Tibetan has this nice connotation, not just of attachment, but also like conceptuality. It's got this sort of like you're creating these stories about this thing in the way it's a little clearer in Tibetan. And so anyway, so I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this mala, and I really, really want to buy this mala. I really think it's beautiful. And so but I know that, right, I don't have that much money, so if I spend 500 or 600 rupees on a mala, then I'm basically out of money, and I'm poor, and I won't be able to eat or whatever. It'll cause a lot of problems. I'll be kind of desperate. So I really, what I did is I just sat there and I thought, okay, I relaxed, kind of tore myself away from the mala, and I thought, well, I've been totally fine up until now without this mala. Why do I suddenly feel like I can't live without this mala, right? And if I were to buy this mala, what's going to happen? Am I going to become this great practitioner? Am I going to become a Buddha, right? Really just using these methods, right, to sort of bring my thinking back to sort of reality, right? Really, so what's going to happen? What really is going to come out of buying this mala? What's really going to come out of buying this mala is I'm going to be not having money, right? And not have a mala. So thinking like that was helpful.
Netanda korok tewatel koso le da yabu jas tewayona ko le jawjana ri
konso yang
tanda korok tewati tanda chosu suko le yabu jitena ko le jawjana rigres.
So if this question is like if there's also other people that want to add or like respond, or if you want to have more of a discussion or want to give an answer, that's totally fine.
May I ask?
Sure. Do you have a question?
So I have this question about this practice. So finding the fault of anger in the outside object or its fault
yourself, yeah.
Self. I'm more about this, that I'm finding the fault of anger in me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm lacking the right view.
Okay.
Because this, it's feeding and breeding
like
improper humility.
Like self-doubt or something, like
improper humility.
Yeah, can you explain what? I have to translate it, so I have to figure out exactly what you mean by that. Is it like it's like your self-esteem is?
Submitting.
Yeah. So you feel bad, like you don't feel like it's helpful, like
Yeah,
it's
so
hard, like it's too much or something.
it's too much.
Wait, you say why improper? What is the fault problem?
Like for example, outside people are like a lot of noise,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not putting the anger on like cars and
Sure.
but I'm putting, oh, I'm so sensitive.
Yeah.
This is I should.
You're blaming.
Yes.
It's like blaming
and then
yourself.
I'm submitting
Okay.
my needs. Okay, maybe I should do this, and
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. 공기 티오카리스나 디 공기 디 초와 디 셰당기 고라 디 치로키 규 당난기 규기 팔라 공 망티오 디 난기 공기 코랑라 디 균 사모탄게레 유네 공기 조당 디스 공디 심슝기레 디 냥충 디스투냐 중기레 디공심 교보차기레스 강유스나 nge kala ye ngala kala ye hakosonge nge so rangi di shedang jobo yores so the sim shungi yores sim gyobo chaki yores the chiloki miteto di gejo zabo yona ngala ka ye di nge di sim di kari di gyur chegore yene di sim gyobo chaki yores sim shungi yores hakosonge
pena chilo miji ke ramada chena su controza
oti control de kong korang la
sam jamba
gyun shakires in the gyun shak de tela dene sim shum gires sim gyobo jakires di nyamchung dukjak jabo yures
te pena tela sam jamba tela control la hakumazo chito ngaso control zate sam thota sung ngajar ngala chingduma so ngala chikchema so zane samtiya thombo dawchi yana sam jamba zane ne ngan jomundo ne ngan nyamchondo ane tindi chete tanga nuba me sammichire zane sakyoa chiora tela control phashela gumare
yene di kongsho rang mare yene kongi di gange di
sam jamba
kangi so di so rang so gi control jabo yures
so la control za na me de pa tela kar
ngami yapo mare ngati chokne di kadi so rang gi katti gi
so katti chito te so rang mi yapo mare so jo nuba mendo zane saulo ti chitong 하죠 대차지 말해서 얘나요 되게 가르쳐야잖아 요 자와자도 수수그 메시지 니바타라 고체 개체 그래서 배나가 조문도 나미 대차지래서 수수수 마 좀네다 삼존더라 대차라 네 수수 니바요사도 수수문 좀보차라 없는 그래서
그러네 그건다
배나가 수수 컨트롤 나치 건조문도 나마 니바메사 나마 타우차지레즈네 사울로지 요라 티카르 게체레즈나 티게 수수 민존토요사도 니바요사 틴디 차와라 게침보체레스 네 티디 사울로 카르 동거레즈나 아니 참살로 나지어치 코레스 가티디 ngaso min danda is mi jemba kun jona ngaman jo akariores
rishiba ki kari
mi jemba kun jong do as leka chena jogon do la jo chena jogon do nga min jo ak chi min danda res asoma min danda suzu ko sang nuba to ma te jera mo to tinde sale to ne yo ye nga jo cha tinde thashi yores.
I'm not sure if I got your question exactly right, but I'm going to give you the answer and we'll work on it again. So right, if you're blaming yourself in that way and you become sort of like discouraged, or I had to describe it kind of as like self-hatred, like self-anger. It's actually a concept that's quite difficult. Tibetans don't have it so much as I think we have a lot of it. But it's and so you sort of like, you're blaming yourself, right? Or you're just sort of like having this like depressive effect on yourself, right? Then the antidote really is to, I mean, on a certain level, the practicing humility and things are good, but if you're sort of becoming discouraged or sad or blaming yourself, you should also think about like generating sort of healthy pride. Right? Like there is healthy pride, right? So generating healthy pride about your good qualities and the things that you're good at or that you're skillful at, right? Reminding yourself of these ways that you are sort of a strong or good person, and that can be helpful. Did that get at your question?
In a way, yes, but also there is a question. So what is the right view when you find a fault in yourself?
Okay, so what is the right view when you find a fault in yourself?
It doesn't go to self-blaming, but,
Yeah,
but
it becomes a benefit.
Yeah, to benefit.
So the ngazo the rang la di gyun yuna the countries the dinde sambo tangna countries the nubu cheki mare countries pintogire pintoki tap karede nga rang the gyun yuna the pintogire the countries pintogire
pena suzu la controza ndosha che somate karrezen mombuchi suzu lo gyun de ngonze chemato gyun de gyun ba ngonze chemato na ani te muntone kanga cha pena nga hoishin da kola control de zana ani pena gyun de kola yo to ngale yo ta ka suzu gyun de yona ani gyun de joto na 수술 컨트롤 매봐 차. 뒤에서 수술 컨트롤 매봐 잖아. 수술 계속 치.
걔는 디ገብ서 균 컨디션 당기게.
균. 배나 나 컨트롤 자라. 컨트롤도 나 컨트롤 자다 컨트롤 자네. 가르치는 나 가르치는 컨트롤 자. 배나 나 콜라 잘라치 파이어. 나 공알아 쳔바 맞잖아. 나 컨트롤 자가라. 이나 뒤견도 콜이요나요. 야, 땅아til 컨트롤 자네. 패근도도 패문도. 나 컨트롤 자네 콜라 잘라 초나. 루는 초. 식사부터 콜 패근도도 패문도. 디소 솔루토나. 마페베 하거나 수지 컨트롤 칼 이젠도. 컨트롤 제소나 수술 강가죠. 틴타보다.
So you can maybe think about it like taking responsibility for your emotions, right? So if, for example, like if I loan something to Jennifer here and she doesn't return it back to me, she never gives it back to me, right? What is the benefit of getting angry? Who is making me angry? Why am I getting angry at her, right? Like what good does it do, right? It doesn't do me any good. It just harms me to get angry, right? So it's like, I think maybe translating it as fault, this is me a translation note, is as it whose fault is it, who has the fault is slightly inaccurate in the Tibetan. It's really like by taking the fault on yourself, what it means is you take responsibility for your mind, right? Right. So but who's getting angry? You're getting angry. Why are you getting angry? What is the benefit of getting angry? Who's getting angry? Harming. It's just harming you. Thinking maybe more about it like that. Is that helpful? So it's not like I'm a bad person. It's like, where is this emotion arising and why? Taking responsibility for your emotions maybe is the better way to explain that.
아니 다기 코 잠바자 준다. 베나 가서 삼마자와라 수수 녀따지네 초따 제거가 계신 보랬어. 녀따지네 삼. 초따지야요라.
아, 그래.
베나 린톰보지요나. 당아 린톰보 건조거라. 네. 미 가시가르 또 리콘을 쳤다. 아, 다린톰보도 나도 저거만 공부나바라 라바. 나 우야부요 말해서 돈보네 린통한테 서시잖아. 수존나 맞아. 리콘라 야진자 같이래래 진짜. 네 그래서 말래나 아니 수수 잠바티 메바산. 수수 베스 제네야 같은저는. 수수는 좀은저 니바치 따거라 맞. 돈보네 칼레촌은 맞아. 좀 말해서 샤자 되게 좀 디노제 레카 카르체나. So
it's also important to remember this is hard to do, right? And so it's like, for example, if you're going to, and it's really important to have, like, to generate, not just to have, but to generate, to build this sort of strength of heart mind, right? Like, so for example, if you're going to climb like a really big mountain, right? If you just look at the mountain and you think, oh, it's really hard, it's really far, I'm never going to get there, of course you won't do it, right? But then you build up your courage, you build up your skill, you try, and say you get part way, well, that's okay, right? You know, but it is hard to do this, and you do have to really do this properly. It does take some courage, right, to hold that and to be able to do this, right, takes some strength and some courage, and so you have to be careful not to get, you know, too discouraged.
Pena suzu samla saushin parajora.
So similar.
Suzu ke samba te zens to bazan. Saushi para. Energy te
Some
Pena mikashi karazan. Lu jachu gochu tuju denje yana. Yinji jonga do yinji jonne shi jonga. Yo kashi yo lu chembo yana bei jonga. Tendi saushi kozo jonga jade saushin des lesona. Kozo lu jonga ne nibaji tenge yores. Yo tanga luchembore shingmare zane saduma jaudena ne te kanga sama jambi kanga niba ndipomeza tindi yoyores.
Yeah, it's also, you know, that our minds, like, we have to cultivate this, like, strength, this mental energy, this enthusiasm, right? Like, some people when they're older and like 60, 70, 80 and they learn, like, they can learn a new language, and partly it's because they have this enthusiasm, they have this energy right there to do it. Versus some people, right, as they get older, they try to learn a new language, and they think, oh, I'm already too old, I can't learn it, and they get discouraged, and they never are able to do it. Is that helpful? Yeah.
Ko tiwate le tata theyu mashira.
How did we get to your question?
I think, yeah. So if I understand correctly, the right view is like changing from fault to responsibility and taking responsibility of arising emotions.
Yeah, I think rather than, I'm translating the Tibetan literally, but it's a little tough. I think if you think about it, taking responsibility for your emotions, by taking the fault on yourself, it's like taking responsibility for your emotions. Who's it hurting? Who's it working? What is the real cause? Rather than saying, oh, I'm a bad person. Right, that's what Geshe is saying.
Yo sam jang kashi samba cho macha cha jora. Ti cha kas yo nyeji to jonshik sam gana. Yo pento de yo pento yo.
Another thing too is, like, if you're feeling like that, like you're feeling sort of sad or discouraged or blaming yourself, like meditating on compassion and love is a good antidote to that too, actually. To really think about compassion and love, that can be a good thing to do it in that situation as well.
Penata samjam machipa karchana suzu kanga dichite kaus ane suzu oma pena tondo ane ta mahe karena dupushabu nyongkha jidwa te doina mikashiloma kombalaba soma macha kanga shin dabu mesa tisol tane kozol tate da ngaya thasen samjam go amundo asasa. I
mean, just as a general sort of, not even just generally speaking, right, when we're sad or depressed or discouraged, right, really just meditating on love and compassion is a really good thing to do. And we can look around us and see, right, we can look at the animals around us, and some of them suffer incredibly, right, and so you can generate compassion for them, or the people, right. I mean, there's many examples of people that right around us that have incredibly difficult lives, right, that we can really understand and generate, you know, love and compassion, and sort of comparatively we're probably in much better positions, and that helps us maybe be more realistic about our problems.
Ne kya ngache to legendary kilenga tindina chukelenga tindina yo tanda susu kanga ta koimba kya ngama yananda ngama lechi sa juju tausere juju sa tene jibun jogorezena linti kor saulu tone yo time bazwa yo thala ndamanda share yores.
Also, if you believe in the Buddhist ideas of past and future lives and karma, right? It's very powerful. It also, when something difficult is arising, to remind yourself that, you know, I created the cause for this suffering in a previous life, right? And so because I created the cause, I'm experiencing the effects. And this is just the way it is. I can't blame anyone else. And then, of course, through the Buddhist path, you have ways of dealing with the karma and not creating future karma. But if you believe in that, right, if that is powerful for you, then you can thinking about karma and effects is also very helpful.
Lopeja la kyunjin karasona pas kanga chi tesona ti kanga meba zoak taushi yoto mundu ta kas taushi yona ti taushi to pechoto kas taushi mena ta taushi me tel magachi to don't le
Nga ti thema ma thong
kas te chusi yona na
din di nini chene che kapo du
tire che ti son
se mo dang ya di le labo du che ti nini chene di che kapo du ne kunga la king. There's a saying from there's a very famous saying from Shivala, the Shanti Deva, one of the great Indian pundits, that Shanti Deva, that is one of the few people that every Tibetan agrees is amazing. In his book To the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, there's a very famous quote that says, whenever a bad situation, a problem arises, I think to myself, you know, if I can change it, then, or if I can change it, then I change it, right? And if I can't change it, then there's no point in worrying about it, right? So what I said to Geshe is like, I've heard that quote so many times, and it's a wonderful quote, but it's very hard to actually do.
Pena chugu paran rugona pena chuji nga chu paran rugona langwachi mato yomare pan chongore chono mato zamba jemba yomare langwa jemba yomare parni dusa yomare ani tasu tin kasan chon toto matatare diba kasan chonto na chon kasan chomato sona ninga par roake kabayo kokayo mare ani ta te suzul nipa mare ta chom tel magache yomare su nipa mare ina suzu nipa yan tombon choto to moto ta thalwa jemba yomet kasan chomato na ani tangan chomato so zani sal kanga champe mare done che gores su suzul timato nipa meba timato nipa meba hakuna kanga choyo res to tandachi nipa meje da tanda nipa ayota saluton ngan chonto maso sa tiena kangar suzul timato nipa me ayeso sa ti tontelena ne kanga choyo.
So for example, right, if you come to a river and you need to cross it, right, the only way you're going to be able to cross this river, let's say, is jump over it. I guess we can't swim in this river, so you have to jump over, right? And so if you get to this river and you want to get to the other side, you can either jump over it and then you just jump over it, or if you don't, then you get there and it's too big and too wide and too swift or something, and you can't jump over it, right? Then there's nothing you can do. You have to go do something else, right? But you're just sitting there and bemoaning the fact that you can't jump over this river, of course, doesn't get you anywhere or do you any good. It just creates more problems.
ane tanda cherona til le yapuyona cherole jana koso jana konyi se jana so ngaso kanga chit yo kanga ti sale thaulati sola yapuyona aso tinding du ra
Kanga di
pela kanga da pagi tewa chi ko kanga chi ora ti tewa ti lenti insimanchi nga jago aso sugo lent tata chi ona ding du ra
Geshe is saying that he's encouraging me to add if I have something to add, or anybody, right? He's basically encouraging us to have a discussion. So if anybody has something they want to bring up, please, it's okay. We can bring it up.
So when you talk of the different afflictions, and I've heard this quite often now, like you meditate on the antidote, or
Yeah.
you know the emotion on the other end of the spectrum. For instance, if you feel attachment, if I feel attachment, you said you can picture that person rotting away, or then he spoke about compassion when you feel like an intense bout of anger. So typically,
Patience. So the antidote to anger is patience.
it's not compassion.
Not specifically. Compassion helps it, but I'm going to ask Geshe to be sure that I don't lie to you. Toagi nimbo soba yang na di chamse yang lap kirebe.
초하게 님보 카트 따따데 조바
Zuba.
응
Yindi chamsayang di kari di.
님보 누가래 때나 카트 따따데 말했어 무슨 님보데 말했어 이나 가서 찬시 가나 초하 뇨린 누가래서 이나요 초하게 님보 카트 조바
Kaptaki docho.
카트 도초데 말했어
So, yeah. So the patients, the exact opposite. It's like the opposite mind, right? That they like one displaces the other, right? So patience and anger are understood to be opposite minds. Although love and compassion, if you meditate on that, that will decrease anger, but it's not the exact antidote. But anyway, that's a technical thing. What was your question?
So when you say meditate on it, what do you mean? Like I've
Okay.
never done anything like that.
Okay. The kongi tiwa di nganso I'll take patience for example. The suba gigola gomna. The kariyana ngala the kongi di kungla di gyume kungla chenyong kyuni yomare. Then the suba gom kirangi sungna kongi gom tap hakogime. Kanjis gomgire.
네 저러 시안한데
Na.
저러래 저러 조바카 시안한데
Na.
저러 조바카 간디 시안 저러 카트 마시안
He's telling me I should tell you so. There's a lot of different ways. In this tradition, we talk about analytical meditations, and so the example like that Geshe has been giving is that you examine what is anger, why is anger arising. Primarily with anger, what you think about is what is the benefit of anger. There's really no benefit to anger, right? So, is there a benefit to anger? Who is anger harming? Or hurting, right? Anger is harming me. Anger is probably harming the other person. Anger is going to create more anger. So it's like analyzing this situation, the reality of this situation, and really understanding it. So typically with meditation, what you do is you think about it, you analyze it, you go to teachings, you kind of make a decision about it, and then in the meditation, you've already got a mind that's decided, like, okay, this is the way it is. And the meditation is like reviewing that decision, right? So you have hearing, thinking, and meditation. And meditation is like, hearing and thinking is where you sort of decide for yourself what is true. And meditation is where you ingrain that into your mind, right? You really accustom your mind to it. And so in this case, it's like, what are the faults of anger? That would be the main thing. What is anger? What are the faults? Is the object as bad as I think it is? No, it's never, right? Or is the object as desirable as I think it is? It's not, right? What are the faults of the desire? And so you just go through that thinking over and over again after having examined it, before. 직진아 공기 공라디 투삼검 숭직신아디 공기 숭바테디 이편도기리.
두서 감사해. 회진 시야.
He wants us to have a discussion. Do you have anything? He's encouraging us to have a discussion. Like so, that I was.
And Lamrim Chimbo is the familiar, like you get familiar with
Familiarization.
familiarization, like Andrew just shared the process. Then you analyze what is the object you're angry about, and then in the beginning you are not familiar with that, so you say because you don't have that experience, right? So then he is showing you the process and how you can analyze, but then you have to practice like repeatedly, and then you get familiar with that, then you will get faster. So, but I think one thing is very important, you are aware of your own thought. That's the very important first step. And then you need to start to practice what Geshe teach, Andrew sharing, and then you get familiar with that. Then you will become very fast.
So
Nothing. No, it's not like
That's
that.
what I was gonna ask. When you say meditate, you mean like really cross-legged, like how we understand?
Yeah,
No,
so
it's
it doesn't
not-
have
it's
to
not-
be.
It's not like that. But
It can be sitting. I mean.
you can sit there, but actually in non-ritual meditation is like what I'm trying to say. Like you practice familiar.
Yeah, the word in Tibetan actually is the same word for like to develop a habit, to familiarize. So like, you know how if you become fixated on something, right? Either something you're scared of or that you're attached to, your brain is just like going over it over and over again, right? So you have to do that same process, but with a beneficial thing, right? It's that kind of, so it's literally building a habit, but a positive one. Yeah.
And now, like, meditation is very popular in Western, like, everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But there are many different kinds of meditation, and it does help because some people they meditate
this
because
gom
they really are very
the jegom
stressful.
tang
So at
jegom
that
tam the
time,
kar
maybe
the
they are
jegom
not
Yoga.
doing meditation
the
to
tsechiki gom
analyze.
the jegom jogom
Mm.
the kepa kari me this ke cha
Maybe their teacher will show them, you just relax. You have no thought. That's one kind of meditation. So there are various, yeah.
I can put some resources in the WhatsApp group too that where there are examples of analytical meditations for
She's
these
not in the group
kinds of
yet.
things.
So
Yeah.
she's not in the group.
Okay, well, we can invite her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
add her,
There are some things online where they'll sort of demonstrate this process. Like they give you more of a guided meditation kind of a thing, which is very helpful. Cool.
Can I also ask, after examination and when you do this vipassana, and if you achieve the seeing in the true nature of like anger or suffering, is this does this like just seeing already liberates you, or you have to apply antidote, or is just the seeing enough?
That's the that's the gom gyap tu. The gom the ding sap mong also the nguni chen the cho gingo tongna. The ngato the nguni chen the cho gingo tongna. Chowa the rangshingi bangiri. Yang na the te gangla the chowa the nyimbo. The kare the jagore.
당가서 초아티 컨트롤다 건네 컨트롤 문이 간디자간도 토나 된 토아 자즈가 배 말해.
그 통장.
토아 자즈가 배 말해. 아니 때 초아티 레나 초아티레 견도 요텐도 됐다. 그래서 티 견요나 견예소나 니 견데 서도 간디지. 초아도 매바주 간디다 마도 가서 파지다 티 컨트롤 임바 모자 자즈게 니도 매바 차고 말해.
ngato ding the kongchong ngune di dukjak ngunsum di be shukchenpo tongna di bangi mare.
문제 컨트롤 때 단다 가선되지나 컨트롤 때 대자야 봐. 때 가서 강가 잡아 가서 통고요래. 얘나 컨트롤 보알라 요때 사우나 님보 사우르지 통고라 마도 가서
이네 님보 di tsowo di ngansi dangzin di dangzin di dame do be sherap di dongni do be sherap di nimbo
담에 또베 쉐라 때나 아니 다 토마 마르파니 존사 살레타나다
di tsowo di nimbo
컨트롤 님보 다 조박 페나 나 촌라고 촐 컨트롤 시 첨부 자데요라 자데요데 네 촌라 나촐 컨트롤 시 촐라치 시소나 나 시가자스 컨트롤 데시 촌린라 진도아 요라 그러나 촐라 컨트롤 자라 컨트롤 자티 컨트롤 시 첨부 나 촐라 그저 시시라
이네 di kinangi ngune chene di kongcho gingo hakona di kongcho langi rewe
컨트롤 모데 학구나
di tonga di ngunsum di tongna.
무사건 토나 다 매바 차그래
매우래.
준 얘가 좀 무사 토도고요 말아 사는
네네네.
준 레사지 마도
예,
컨트롤 가서 강아테 몸부지라
예.
딜살로 동말 마도 컨트롤 무사도 또 컨트롤 자 하고 그래서 로지가 다음에 또 비시 다 그래서 로지가 장자하래
It's a little difficult because we get into some technical distinctions between what it means to see things. So, generally speaking, for most of us, just clearly understanding the nature of anger will not get rid of it, right? You have to apply these antidotes, right? You know anger is bad, and you can know it very deeply that it's bad, and you won't get rid of anger, right? You have to apply an antidote to change your mind. Now, it's a little more complicated because if we say, if you directly see, like, emptiness or there are these powerful antidotes that are by what we would say direct perception of the nature of reality, right? The emptiness or the selflessness of persons. These are the ultimate antidotes, right? So if you can directly perceive the nature of anger, you do get rid of anger, but this is something that happens at a very high level of practice, right? This is not things that are accessible to most of us, right? So your question, because the way you word it, like with Vipassana and things, it's a little difficult to place what you mean, but like a very clear understanding will not get rid of anger. Seeing the nature of reality is the ultimate antidote. Does that make sense? But that's a very difficult thing to do directly, right? That's the very late in our practice.
Pena ngaso nochu khelenke nochu no ne sheto jena khoatel kyonta gorese momboshe. Ina ngaso khoal kyongoni ji thotugo yorese tuyum. Kyonda tezen ne yotenda momboto tendchen shedamato. Khoala ngoni kyonjin thosona khoala kechizayo nindoyoma te trandoma tinoshechires. Ina kyoyela mela yotenda.
So, for example, we talk a lot about in Buddhism about samsara, korwa, the word samsara, the cyclic existence, where we say, oh, that has these faults, it's a really difficult place to live, right? But the truth is, for most of us, we can say that, we can study that, but what we mostly see are the benefits. We always think it's going to be okay, right? I mean, and so we know on a certain level that samsara, cyclic existence, as Buddhists, right, has these faults, right, or these sufferings. But we still also see all the positive aspects that we think about they're positive, right? If we really saw the nature of samsara, if we could really, truly, directly perceive the nature of cyclic existence, we would naturally want to get out of it, right? But that's very difficult to do. Right? That is a very high realization to actually, truly, directly perceive these things.
Penangaso chutenyo, chutezana chutabu rojek bo chutendi do. O tendi daldu pagi chutichen kala lompanda tes yon degora. Kala lompa ze chula lompa lendo. O tendi jin tonte ti ngaso tan ti pet chatabu yamba hakuna. Chone tinon chong mare. Tan ti chet dronjanda chi chena tromonda chena dronjanda mendo sane ngaso tinolo. Tin chong da ma ti chet pet chabuji yamba ngaso hakuna chone chong mare su seba haku na chute tromonda yana yana dronjanda yana. It's
also, you could think about it, for example, like there are these hot springs, right? And some of the hot springs are incredibly hot, right? And you can, if you were able to see that the hot spring was like incredibly hot, it's like hot, it would burn, like steam coming up and it's bubbling, right? You would never jump in it, right? Because you would know, clearly, it's obvious. But if you think, oh, maybe it's warm, maybe the water's nice, then you might jump in because you don't really know. You're not seeing, that the water is so hot, so boiling. Is that helpful?
Yeah, it is helpful.
Yeah, it's difficult, your question, because
when you do like extended vipassanas, you may or may not find a little glimpse of anatta, anicca, dukkha.
I don't know those terms in
There's anatta, like no self. Anicca, like everything is changing.
Okay.
And dukkha of like
suffering.
Yeah. And then you may feel like, okay, now it's like now you are beyond this suffering, but still after leaving the vipassana, after a while it gets back.
Yeah, it comes right back, of course. Yeah, it comes right back.
Go jump fire.
Yeah, so from a technical standpoint, when we talk about directly perceiving something in the grounds and paths, this is an irreversible, you have gotten rid of these things. So it's, but kungi sungbadi karesana de kungi gi vipassana de goenka gi vipassana de consulti di
vipassana
de kumamoche de te nangne samsam dis dame tungire dis mitak beding samot tungire de dungel gi gyu samot dis nyamnyong sakire tetu di kola di tetu di rangshingi di ngejung jabu lepkire. Yine di gom Kyap sarwe jela di te jela di gyokpo ngacho namgyungi ki simyanger lepkire. Ki khongsimre. Nge khongla de ngacho di ngunsum na lapna di mixe ki shukchewe ki simre. This tele kakagere. Nge khongla sam. Uh-oh, we've been signed out. Why did we get signed out? Okay. Di kola di kyungi.
Pena tham gong ko de.
Di ngato di negap gong gap.
Res.
Dis new mongs di shuk chungo dogere. Gom charwe jela younger dis
leg. Tati country masosa. Yo ko na parishi range ki pa. Tanda ti le ma to. Yo ngato gajai kas le cha. Yo Gamaja kasi yo samba chupu chashunda. Tenga so gana country mo samtila. Jonda mo potoma to aisa tere.
Ngase kangi tare ngune gi nyimbo mare.
Nyimbo mare. Tanda nyimbo tenje. Ne yo gameti me ba chando. O te yo nyimbo mo tema to. Yena yo tanda ti gantiz ja ganikas me ba chate yabure. Ti karezena ngaso leto sanikala. Te ne ka jawato ne kanga me pacha. Te wong kale gonna struache. Yeah. Te yorji ka namba te shichimbol negre.
Yeah, so I mean when you meditate, right, when you calm your mind, right, it does have this benefit of these temporarily sort of suppressing the afflictions, and that has the benefit really of creating this joy for meditation and practice, right, and makes you want to do it again, and that is good and that is important. But this is an example, right, of what we were saying is that because you're not applying the actual antidote, right, when you stop meditating, it just comes back. So it's not that it's good to meditate, it's good to develop this, but it's important to understand that you have to apply these antidotes, right? Or the afflictions just sort of come back. You're just sort of pushing them down for a little while.
Pena gayenanda zoba gayenanda ngeni jonda mombu tone. Ane kaleche ngus kangate kas pecho to ayora mato. Ne ngel county tindimena kapures. Pena gajama zoba gamanyunga. Pena michik tre jeni june chol tsuto chete. Nenga zoba gayezane te desayo mata. Titi karresa ko jonda yona kola nola machene yona trenjoa yona kolabano tren juncho yoak tashi tonre mata kol pashiato ti tashi ton mare tindira mata yo kandimena ko tikajo gaja zoba gayeza tindi dayo mare.
Yeah, so I mean when we talk about meditating, like for example on patience and anger, right, we have to understand that this is something we have to really do a lot, right? It's hard. Right? We have to work on our mind a lot to effectively change it, slowly change it, right? So if somebody just walks up to you and stabs you or pokes you and you're like, oh, I'm going to meditate on patience, right? It's not going to work, right? I mean, this is something you have to really slowly change your mind over time. And then, right, then it has this power in that moment.
Nechito zoba gaza te ngaso shurat nanje ke shira zenaman. Shira troto guat kechimboras. Zoba gala shira na kyoyo. Salu shira yo gores. Zoba tela. Mato zoba ta lemba utsuta mares. Pena ngandra chi michik tageshan trichi jene lewo tsuto chete. Nga zoba gaizen tik tsuchi ayo ma. Ina kol zoba gokor. Zoba kar gokor zen. Dona kogi trete ke susolo mo pa yona den ro ato. Ra yona kolapano tritin chota ta. Tindik salutone zoba ra ma. Nga zoba gai kongal trik tsuna tsuzene. Tindiro lemba mares. You salut. Salut shira.
It's also important to remember that, right, when we talk about having patience and like someone harming us, right, we have to be smart. We don't want to be idiots. Right? We don't want idiot patience, right? So if somebody, in this example, somebody comes up and stabs you, right? I mean, get out of the way or like block them or something, right? It doesn't mean that you just have to sit there and take whatever's happening. So it's really important to use your mind to think, to use wisdom along with like this practice of like patience, right? I mean, we don't want this sort of stupid patience or idiot patience, right? We want to be smart as well.
다 뜻에 서
Anybody, one more question? We're sort of out of time, but you guys have had some great questions. Do you guys have anyone else? One more question before we go?
If theoretically we understand all of this so well, why do we kind of find ourselves?
Why does it keep doing it?
Yeah, I understand all of this, but it's like, why do I keep?
Because you have to.
Like, I know it's gonna burn me, but I voluntarily go and.
Yeah. Nganso karisene nganso dindri di dimbaresan matangna di ngune chini di kane hakogi yana karisene nganso di younger di controlangere di nganso di younger di nganso sosoranga negire karisene nganso di tatung di nyumong mambo yores na di dimbaresan matangna di dimbare di tatare yini di younger di kada kapo yore karisene
다 ngaso pena nyomo kari na nyomo mombojiora tisolo donla chaati pa khate chaati nyomo te la rom mombojite shichimbo te yesoza ne nyomo te kari kandi shichimbo te gras
because really, the thing is, we have all of these afflictions and we're habituated to them, right? We give them freedom. We've given them freedom, right? And so that they're just very strong. And from the Buddhist perspective, this has happened over countless lifetimes, right? So they're just we've really allowed these afflictions to dominate us. So it's a habit.
pena nyatan thonga to ara trat doga koso shichimbo thonga teso pa kane koso kala shichimbo to longe ngaso nyomo to sone tape ti kala pe kale yores tino jeres pena ara to drak mo thonga jera te chalo shane pa kagon pe kale khabuno ngaso nyomo to sone pa nyomo to kagon pe kale yores.
So it's exactly like somebody that's like an alcoholic or a drug addict or something, right? That you're so accustomed to taking these things or drinking, and even though it's causing you all these problems, it's really hard to stop, right? It's exactly like that, right?
Pena ngarunda chonsho kazena pa bosa to nya chonsho sa de tiso pa kone pa chigto led dushia chonsho kaz tende mom kanshi yores. Inayo tatine yale nonshula gegete zogane chig sochya yoma mombuchi tende mombushen ne roji kaliti kanshit mebajan tatizonde jena nya segona chi roji kan chanon ra pa mebasha o tende di kanne le chires.
So I, for example, when I was a kid, I was really naughty and I would always kill like the little insects. This is what he was doing. He was like smashing the insects and killing the little things, and I did that a lot and I developed that habit. But then as I got older, the teachers, told me, oh, you shouldn't do that. Here's why. These are the reasons, right? This is, that's really bad. And so I changed that habit. So it's sort of like that.
Tende nyomo cheto pena tau dibuchi ngazo Jaka lomba nola, nasonde che jaka jemba cholon roma nyora. Nanda uchena jaka lomba ma jemba kanso hamo ko ke jaka lomba no cholo joy ke nyu to kasa kala yuni pa kone. Ke nyi na da kasa langwa yi soma la yide. O ti kanshi ti cha de yores. Ina yo jata jemba jindo na ni ta ke nyi lu sama do yi ayo mare konjo mo ji chomare. Ti kaushit jar khabuno je tindichere ti kaushit jonta ton no parishi kenyi lusano ma to maya jakajema mombo kaushit tensa.
So for example, like here in India, there's a lot of people have this habit of just throwing trash everywhere, right? And they're accustomed to this habit, right? Even though it's sort of harmful. And you can imagine that changing this habit would be very, very hard, right? Because people have gotten used to doing this, right? So it's very difficult to change this habit, even though in other countries, right, that people have changed this or don't do that, right? So it's like that. You've developed this habit for something, and making that change requires a lot of effort.
This college saluton. To set this manner,
so just like that, like with these afflictions, right? Like we're not going to change them overnight, right? We have to think, we have to analyze, we have to understand, and we have to sort of slowly change them, right? We can't. It's not something we're going to be able to just do immediately, right?
네, 다다리 들으시라.
Okay. Thank you guys. Thank you for coming. Thanks for the questions. Those are all very good questions.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Bye.
Can't see anybody. Bye-bye.